This time on Video Game Tango, Diablo Immortal is out early. We've got news on Warcraft 3 Reforged. World of Warcraft now makes you sign a social contract to play. We showcase Shogun Showdown, have a send-off for Shinji Hashimoto as he retires from Square Enix. Speaking of Square Enix, Hirinobo Sakaguchi is back at Square. Let us know what you think. Then the two-time is back on Twitch. Kinda. Josh shares his thoughts on the Cycle Frontier. Nick is super excited for Marble Madness 2. Team Fortress 2 needs saving, and so does the ROM dump for Bio Force Ape. And we end on things with, what the fuck do you call a vampire survivor-like?
Nick here with a quote from the Annals of History. The slyly toves did indeed gyre and gimble in the wabe, but will Team Fortress 2 be saved by Gabe?
Hi, I'm Josh, and you don't need a social contract to get at my 10 gigs or do a paywall.
My name's Andy, and this is Video Game Tango. Wake up! It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's time for Video Game Tango. Speaking of Video Game Tango, we announced it a couple weeks ago, but we've been doing another podcast called Balcony Time Podcast. It's on the same network. If you're subscribed to us via any of the podcast networks, YouTube, you can also watch Balcony Time. If you like our banter between video game news, that's all it is, man.
Now, listen. I listen to all podcasts, and I know these ads, skip over them, and give me that plus 10 seconds, right? We started this podcast originally just giving our opinions on shit, shooting the shit on the back. And if you like what you hear us talking about games, it only gets better.
It only gets better.
It is the plus extra package.
Here's a spoiler for this week's Balcony Time Podcast. We're going to be talking about our first beers, our ticklish spots, and our first exposure to porn.
What is it to like?
Come on.
Right? Yeah. It only gets better from here.
Join us. We're your buddies. In the news,
Go.
The news.
Diablo Immortal.
It comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, you think so. It dropped today. So a day early, June 1st, Diablo Immortal just randomly shows up on the Play Store and App Store. So it's available now on Android and iOS. I haven't checked to see if it's on iPad OS. It's weird. The news cycle hasn't caught it too much. When I look at Diablo Immortal release, it's mostly talking about the upcoming release date.
Tomorrow.
But it dropped today.
Yeah.
Big surprise for a lot of people.
I checked it this morning. Literally, I woke up and I was like, what day does it come out again? Tomorrow.
I
it
did
wasn't
too.
even on the Play Store. And
I did
sometime
too.
today, they decided to be like,
Today I was like, so it's the 1st, so I'm going to look up upcoming game releases for June, and Diablo Immortal's on there for June 2nd, and then I start looking at TV shows. The Boys comes out the 3rd. I'm just like, June is going to be a good month. But yeah, so it was a surprise that when I was looking that up, I was like, oh, I wonder if they have it, you can preload it on the Play Store. And I just downloaded it.
Dope.
yeah, this is, I mean, I could rant about this at length. The Google Play Store is a travesty. I think that is a good application of that word. I've been pre-registered for this app for almost 6 months now, and it's set to pre-install. And it didn't. Maybe it's because they released early. Maybe they borked something up and, like, I don't know, Alan in IT accidentally fucking set Diablo to be installable a day early. But yeah, I don't know. I could rant about Diablo for a while, and I probably will on Balcony Time Podcast if you want to listen after this.
I mean, we might rant about it now.
Yeah.
Because it comes out and now people are playing it, and more than just the people that got early access to it. And apparently it is a freemium hellscape.
Yes.
Oh.
So, in a nutshell, this game is made by NetEase. And if you have any familiar with NetEase, you know what to expect. NetEase makes a lot of mobile games, and a lot of the games are similar because they're built off the same backbones. We knew from the announcement of Don't You Have Cell Phones that this was going to be a freemium game. From what it sounds like, having people played the beta, played now, obviously there's a paywall. They've managed to push the paywall back a little bit, so it's not until endgame. But that paywall is as egregious as you can imagine. Like, if you were to not pay any money and to compare yourself to someone who pays money, literally years and years of real-life grinding to get yourselves to the points where this is at.
It's being compared to Lost Ark. It's a Wales game.
Yeah.
Yowza.
Because at the end of the day, 10, 20% of your players will be those people who pay money, and they will make up and recoup any costs that all your free-to-play players cause.
Yep.
Right? And that's just the state of things. I am going to play it for two reasons. One, because I want to be able to give an honest review of how starkly awful I'm expecting it to be. And two, because at the end of the day, I want to see how they massacred my boy. If I am anything, I'm a Diablo fanboy. But thankfully, I'm cogent enough to acknowledge when things are shitty, right?
So it's free.
It's free to start, just like any good heroin in the back alley.
Yep, first one's free.
Giving them any money, gentlemen, would break our...
I absolutely will not be paying any money on Immortal. I will be playing it to get an idea of how it feels. If it's good enough, I will keep playing it.
Sure.
I will not recommend this game unless it completely goes beyond the pale and is hyper different from what I'm expecting. If there is no paywall, right? If this has been exaggerated, if they've managed to pull, that Neo Matrix rabbit out of their ass and actually make a good game, I will then recommend it. That is the only scenario in which that's going to happen. More than likely, I'm going to tell you my experience with it, and it's going to be shoddy. But I just want to get it out there, right? Because I love Diablo, and I love what Blizzard once was, and I want to see them get back to it, and they cannot if we do not be honest with ourselves. So, with that said, I have it downloaded. I'm downloading the extra 8 gigabytes of fucking content that they throw at you after the first 2 gigabytes of install. Thankfully, I have a new phone, so I'm going to get to experience this. S20 Plus, I think, is what I'm using. So by next podcast, I will give you a review on that. We'll see how it goes.
I think I'm probably going to play it as well. I'm going to check it out on iPad OS, provided that it's a simultaneous release. Slightly larger screen, connectivity as far as like a controller goes. I hope they have controller support. So I'll be checking that out as well. Regardless of what platform I end up downloading it on.
I think I'm going to let that one pass by, homies.
Yeah, you're playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
You're dipping your toe into Blizzard drugs.
Into the Blizzard juice.
Yeah.
Blizzard.
Now,
into that freeze.
Before anybody comes back and says, I thought we weren't playing Activision Blizzard games.
We're not giving them our money.
We're not giving them our money.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about it on the Video Game Tango podcast, but Josh and I have started playing on a private server called Warmain. It's a 1-to-1 Wrath of the Lich King server, and it's been awesome.
It has been awesome.
Been having a blast playing with it, bud.
Yep. Same.
You guys are up to level 20-ish now, so they're about done with the tutorial.
23-ish, yeah.
Right? They're starting to get their full kit of their class together.
Yeah. We did Wailing Caverns.
Like, it's one thing, dear listener, if you have a friend and they get into a hobby that you've been into for years and you're so excited to show them the ropes and you get to see that first-time experience, like, we've gone through that with our other friends before. And we're getting to do it yet again with Josh, who managed to dodge every World of Warcraft playthrough we've done over the last almost 20 years. Yeah. Now it seems, it's not 20 years, 15 years maybe.
It's 18 years.
18 years, so almost 20 years. And I haven't been here for his playthrough. I might just hop on and play with you guys specifically to see Josh play. It's such an iconic, weird thing to see someone experience what was our generation's first real MMO. I mean, of course, there was EverQuest and Ultimate, all that, but that was a generation before us. So, yeah,
dude, it's been a trip. It's been a trip, and I really feel like it's starting to roll now, and I'm honestly looking forward to playing.
And you're playing a warlock?
I am
an orc warlock.
Yes.
Okay, you're following in Colin's footsteps like the Sith that you are.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, master.
Yeah. All right. I've got some good news, some sad news.
I do have some other news real quick to tie in. Very short news with Activision Blizzard. It's non-news, but it's hopeful. So Blizzard is saying, President Mike Ibarra stated that there's going to be news from Warcraft 3 Reforged coming this month.
Don't even fucking put that curse upon me. They destroyed Warcraft 3.
There hasn't been an update in over a year. So we're... Let's hope that they just fixed it, right? Good cutscenes, the game works. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. I'll play it.
If you are not familiar, dear listener, Warcraft 3 was kind of the last in the iteration of the Warcraft real-time strategy games, and it held a lot of close place in people's hearts.
Yeah.
Especially due to all the mods that people released, which is where things like Defense of the Ancients come from, the next evolution of tower defense after StarCraft mods. But yeah, they made Warcraft 3 Reforged a couple years ago now, where they tried to reboot it, and they did a worse job than I thought was possible, to the point where they borked up like original source code stuff. And people were like desperately trying to find the original game discs to restore the game to a working state.
Yeah, because if you had purchased Warcraft 3 on Battle.net previously, Warcraft 3 Reforged took that over. You were no longer allowed to play Warcraft 3 in its original form. So the only way to play Warcraft 3, if that's something you're still into, and there is still a good-sized modding community for Warcraft 3, mind you, then you had to have the original installation discs.
Yeah, and if I remember right, like it destroyed the ladders. Like all the Blizzard tournament ladders and multiplayer stuff within Battle.net was like didn't work.
Yep.
So like they essentially just borked up the multiplayer and then like destroyed the original files.
They fucked everything up.
It's like I was trying to say, it was worse than you can imagine what they did with the remaster.
They took, it's like, dude, I would be furious. Like, no, I bought that one.
Oh, people were furious.
And I bought this
17 of the people still playing Warcraft 3, but still. Yeah, no, it's like someone came out with GTA 5 again, but multiplayer doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And the game barely loads, and you have to try to like reinstall it 9 times.
And all your shark cards are gone.
But it looks better. But there's no more cutscenes.
Well, there are cutscenes. They're just worse than the originals. Like, hello?
Oh, so...
Or they didn't even use the original. Like it's bad.
So they gave it the definitive treatment. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, they really did. I think this ties into something that could lead into a long discussion. I don't know if it's going to, but World of Warcraft recently released an interesting thing. They want you to agree to be nice to other players with the introduction of a social contract. I've not seen this in person. I'm not going to talk from a soapbox here, but it sounds like there's some kind of checkbox that you have to select upon playing World of Warcraft now, which asks you essentially to not be toxic. They say Azeroth, quote, is a living world full of people like you, other players with different backgrounds, cultures, experiences, and histories who have all come together to play World of Warcraft. Every player deserves to have a world that they feel safe in, so please take a minute to read our social contract. Toxicity doesn't come out of a vacuum. There are a lot of instigating factors that cause toxicity. And unfortunately, the development and style and methods of Blizzard games along the ideas of MOBAs and whatnot do not help with that. And to slap this checkbox that says, I won't be toxic, like I can't think of a lesser platitude towards your audience and say, hey, it's okay. We made people check a checkbox. You know that thing next to the EULA that everyone reads front to back to make sure they're not being scammed? Like, I don't want to sound like I'm attacking Blizzard, but
no, it's okay. Attack Blizzard.
Every week they're coming out with something even more bizarre and like just inane. Like this isn't how you tackle toxic behavior in the gaming community. Nobody is going to change their behavior based off a checkmark box, which tells me, let me finish real quick, that they know that. They're not stupid, but it sounds like they might be covering their ass.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe something big happened recently that's going to hit the news about some kind of toxic thing. Maybe not. But at the end of the day, we all know that this isn't going to change anything, including Blizzard. So I wonder what the fuck they have up their sleeve that's stinging them in their armpits that they're so worried about. So
I think it's just standard PR trying to make up for still back losses. It's like, I mean, we're just, hey, we put in a social contract, and it's like, that no one read. You just check the box, and you don't. If there's no teeth to this social contract, and by the sounds of it, there isn't. Like, I mean,
I wouldn't say that there's no teeth.
Okay. All right.
Simply because by adding this to essentially their end user license agreement, their EULA, toxicity becomes an amorphous thing that is now a bannable offense.
Hey, if they can now codify it, they can say, hey, you agreed to not be toxic, therefore immediate ban offense.
Yeah.
Cool. That's actually pretty clever. But we'll see how that pans out. I don't have an opinion on that yet. That is a good point I didn't think of.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it feels like that's what they're trying to do, is without modifying their EULA, they're adding in a social contract to try and clean up the game a little bit. Because trade chat, it's just, World of Warcraft is knowingly toxic. Like, the MMO community at large is generally fairly toxic. Because I think as far as the MMO community goes, a lot of it is the same people. Right, yeah. Just chasing the next, fix, right?
Someone in the Reddit community about this article, I apologize, I don't remember their username, brought up the point that not only are veterans usually your defining feature for how toxic an environment will be for a game, the way you develop and run a game also affects that. And the example they gave was raids. Raids are a time-gated FOMO activity that require a player to be up to a certain standard to perform against this pass-fail check. Either you're good enough to be in the raid or you cause the raid to fail. Like that idea right off the bat is going to inherently develop a toxic community. If you have people who are invested in the game and are putting 40, 50, 90, 1,000 hours a week into the game, and they want to do these raids, and then I think they said newbie number 69 shows up and tries to do a raid and causes the raid to wipe because not only gear wise but skill wise they're not ready.
Yeah, fucked up.
And that raid only gets to do this thing like once a week, and they just fucked up like a 4-hour run because of this newbie. That is a toxic environment caused by the way you've developed your game. And that's just one example of a way that you can set up toxicity to succeed from the get-go. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, them putting this checkbox in.
Sure.
I'm saying there's a lot of factors in play, and I don't know where they're going to go with it.
It certainly feels pandering.
Yeah, they don't want to make any actual changes. So, I mean, here's
but
a little.
You do bring up a good point, and I will continue to hope, and Occam's razor, maybe they're laying it down that now it is a EULA law. If you are proven toxic, we can just ban you.
Yeah.
Which would be a good thing. I mean, we'll see how that plays out.
Only time will tell there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In other news, I mentioned a couple weeks ago Backpack Hero, a free game on itch.io that is now on Steam. There was a fun little roguelike where managing your gear in your backpack was the kind of shtick of the game. I have found yet another one, Shogun Showdown, also free, available on itch.io. You can go Google Shogun Showdown, itch.io, to check it out. It is a little roguelike game. You play a little samurai, and the whole idea is it's a turn-based game where you set up maneuvers to try to do what amounts to a reflection of a 2D fighting game, but turn-based. You get to upgrade your abilities and choose new ones as you level up and you fight bosses. And in the state I saw it in through Wanderbots was my first exposure before I tried it myself. It is an alpha. It does not look like alpha, like late beta is really what I was saying. But it's really neat. It straddles that line between logic puzzle and roguelike, where there is no random elements other than the fact that there's input randomness. Input randomness meaning that the enemies that show up, when and where they show up, you don't know, but all the actions you choose and how you wish to play them out in which order to make sure that you survive these little combats in this kind of, little, like I said, samurai-esque fantasy game. It's up to you to succeed or fail, just like any good roguelike. And it's neat to see that this genre kind of keeps evolving. And I really appreciate it. I don't have a lot of time in it. I only got about an hour into it. I got the tutorial in the first couple phases. I'm going to play it again over the week. But yeah, you get the option of, essentially all these interesting choices. Do I upgrade the skill, or do I give it this penalty, but also this negative? And interesting choices are what make video games for me. So again, yet another free game worth your time. There's no reason not to check it out if you have a PC.
Yeah, it looks like it even plays in the browser.
Port to mobile, given the simplicity of the controls. I don't know if that's on the table. Again, most of these itch.io games are usually run by one or two developers. But I will keep an eye on this and let you know. So a little good news, Shogun Showdown. Check it out if you have the time. Andy is playing it live on stream. I don't think he's done the tutorial.
I'm not.
Yeah. So.
Oh no!
He stabbed the wrong way.
Yeah. Some attacks can hit behind you. Like I had a maneuver where a guy with a polearm was about to stab me, and I was able to teleport behind him and make him hit an enemy. And the tutorial doesn't teach you that. That's one thing I really like about this game is the tutorial teaches you enough of the controls and the mechanics to know how to play. But each new enemy, you have no idea what they're going to do until they do it. And sometimes you will accidentally do something like I did, where I teleported through an enemy and hit them from behind. Yeah. And that moment strikes you, you're like, oh, this just got much more complex. This got way cooler than I thought it was going to be. And that happened 5 or 6 times in a row, both in my watching of the Let's Play and my playing myself. So give that one a shot if you have a PC.
Shogun Showdown.
Yes, exactly. Josh, I believe we looked over, you and I, a list of upcoming games this June, and you found one that you liked.
I found one that, I found one that looked pretty cool. I think it might be, one that we could all play. So it's a PvPvE FPS survival game. It's a lot of words. Yeah. It's from Jaeger, and the game sees you questing for resources across.
It's called From Jaeger?
No, it's from Jaeger, and it's going to drop on Steam on June 8th and Epic, I believe.
Okay.
But the game is called the Cycle Frontier.
Oh, yeah.
And it sees you on the planet Fortuna 3, where you're questing for resources, taking it from animals and bugs and all that good jazz. You know, all the good survival aspects of the game. Except there's other people out there.
Oh.
They want your things. And now what the game also offers is, of course, permadeath. So, like, if you die, you lose all of your things. You have to restart, except for, like, there's save spots. But the game looks really pretty. A good comparison, apparently, is Division's The Dark Zone, but in space. So we're seeing some apocalyptic-looking overgrown ships. There's a storm that rolls through. I mean, it looks really cool.
The map is giving me huge satisfactory vibes.
So I do want to point out, just in case you guys remember, I touched on this probably a month or 2 months ago when the trailer first dropped. I don't know if we've mentioned it again since on stream, but I have watched a little bit of gameplay, and it is somewhere like between Apex and Tarkov. And like you said, what was it that you just said? The way you described it?
Oh shit, I don't know. Survival.
You said it was like the Division Dark Zone.
Like Dark Zone, yes, Division Dark Zone.
Yeah, I played the Division.
Space,
and it's similar. Unfortunately, most of the gameplay I've seen was a bit stilted. They didn't run into other players early on, so it seemed more, I didn't get a good feel for the game. That said... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I watched a couple of, no, I didn't just watch the trailer that we're watching now, but I also watched some gameplay videos, and it looks fun. It looks fun. Okay. Yes. Saw a few, this one dude engaging people, having some fun encounters, not just within the environment, but other players that this guy was murking and getting murked by. So it seemed like a good mix,
And this is free to play on Windows, it looks like.
Through EGS and Steam.
Okay. Both available options.
Free to play. Give it a go, guys. June 8th.
If you like first-person battle royales, I mean, why not try the next possible step in them?
Oh, I'm checking it out. The Cycle Frontier.
I always love the idea of throwing more PvE, player versus environment elements in there. Because we've seen really good PvP, player versus player battle royales. Like, keep that novelty going. What's the next step?
Well, that's June 8th. The Cycle Frontier. Mark your calendars.
A week.
If we're able to do something with our community, we will.
Yeah,
hit us up.
That would be neat. What else do we have? Anything else immediate on the docket? I've got a few other things.
I do. I want to talk a little bit about Twitch.
Okay.
I don't have any fancy graphics or anything to show you because I can't. You may remember a very popular Twitch streamer.
Professor Rudeness?
Thereabouts, yeah. I think that's his brother. Yeah. Anyways, so Dr. Disrespect decided he was going to throw on a large event in Fortnite. This event is called the Fortnite Hot Shot Duo Drop.
Real quick, help me. He's not allowed to currently stream on Twitch?
He is banned from Twitch.
So he's doing
reasons unknown.
Own event.
So he's doing his own event, and he is streaming on YouTube. So he's swapped platforms.
YouTube. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So he's still a big streamer.
Yeah.
So he's hosting Fortnite Hotshot Duo Drop.
Okay.
The fun thing is about that is, well, I mean, where are you going to get the rest of your streamers from? Definitely not YouTube. Probably going to have to pull some from Twitch. Twitch put out a list of rules for joining this.
I saw this rule list on Reddit, and I didn't know what it was in reference to.
Yes. So...
Can you throw this up on the TV for Josh?
Twitch says, I absolutely can. It is prohibited to use your channel knowingly feature or advertise as a suspended user. We understand that there may be instances where suspended users may appear on your stream due to circumstances beyond your control, such as through third-party gaming tournaments, but we expect that you make a good faith effort to remove them from your broadcast, mute them, or otherwise limit their interactions with your stream. A few helpful tips to navigate this tournament if you are a Twitch streamer. Use Hotshot Duo Drop during Fortnite to refer to the event, so make sure you put that in your stream title. Use other names for Dr. Disrespect. Example, the two-time Blockbuster Video Game Champion.
Wow.
Which are things that he's known for having done or for having been. He was the two-time Blockbuster Video Game Champion. I don't remember the years because I haven't watched him in a long time. Hide images, videos, and streams of Dr. Disrespect from your stream. You know, just the guy that's hosting it. Mute Dr. Disrespect in-game. So what happens if you end up partied up with the doc? You don't get to talk to him.
Oh, wow.
Which is like literally the whole reason you're trying to do this.
Kind of important. And be mindful of showing the tournament/bracket page on stream. They don't want to see his name in the player bracket
like
on
the worst
stream.
Teenage breakup you can imagine.
How did he hurt them?
Now, listen, we don't know why the doc got banned from Twitch.
Did he fuck Twitch's wife?
It has to have been, right? So that hasn't been the reason for Doc's ban ultimately was never announced from him or from Twitch.
I remember them going back and forth about it, but yeah.
And the Doc, for all of his credit, said that he would be announcing it as soon as he had clearance from his lawyers and stuff. It seems like he doesn't have the clearance from his lawyers and stuff.
Okay.
So it seems like we don't know what he did. Clearly, he did something. However, he argues that he did not break Twitch's terms of service when getting banned. So you never know. Like maybe he really did something awful, and there's a good fucking reason for Twitch not to want him on stream. But then just ban the streaming of this event in its entirety on the platform, right? I feel like that might be the play. It's hard to say, right? It's hard to say.
Yeah, either like you've banned him, but it's like this is punishing like what are supposed to be your peeps,
your
right?
employees.
Like your employees. You're punishing them. There's going to be people who are like, well, maybe I'll just go fucking watch it on YouTube if he can't even fucking interact with the guy, can't show the bracket. Like, you're not getting to watch any of the thing. That's the whole point of the tournament, right?
Yeah.
To me, if I had to
petty.
Occam's razor this, they clearly allowed it to happen on Twitch. People are allowed to stream this hot drop challenge.
Yeah.
They have all these intricate, like Byzantine rules for what you need to do, which tells me they don't want to miss out on the potential revenue from this event.
Right.
But they want to make sure that they're sticking to like their legal side of like, we can't allow him to get around the rules, the fact that he's banned.
Yep.
So reference him in every way other than the way that you know him as, so that we can then earn your viewership and in turn your revenue money from watching this event through Twitch.
Honestly,
which is so, it's just so fucking,
It's skeevy.
like skeevy and
like
Because
that,
during that event, Fortnite is the number one thing on Twitch, right? It's the number one viewed thing, especially with the controversy, right? So
people love controversy.
Putting out these rules on like before the tournament begins is just fueling the fire of the controversy and fueling views.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, just like, I honestly feel like it's like, hey, he's banned, so you cannot refer to him on your stream. So the two-time, and that also like makes it harder for him to get like hits on his name. I like that one. That one's fine. I feel like that's an agreeable one, but everything else is like, everything else is hurting you got to mute him, and it's like, so, and also like, I mean, how much you get to be like,
they're throwing their Twitch streamers under the bus.
Yeah.
Under the bus. Like if a Twitch streamer shows up and he's in his party and you said they have to mute him.
Yeah.
Like, there'd be a 5-minute window of hilarity as the Twitch chat's like, oh, you can't say his name. You have to mute him. And then they'd stop watching your stream, right? Like, why not just go to YouTube and watch his stream where you get to hear the things? So then the day, Twitch is passing along the pain buck is what they're doing. They're saying, okay, Twitch streamers, we're allowing you to do this, but we're going to fuck you over in return because we don't want to get in any kind of ramification for it. Like, you're just shitting on the little guy, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Which isn't anything new, right? But yeah, how did that event go? Did it happen already, or was
it happened on the 27th of May. It seems like everything was fine-ish, but I'm reading right now
a deal is
that some players were banned from mentioning Dr. Disrespect on Twitch. Please, Amazon, leave us alone. We're just reporting the news here.
Let's call him Professor Rude. We'll save ourselves.
No, it's too late. We've already talked about him. So apparently a couple people did get banned for referring to him on Twitch. That's really unfortunate. And it feels a little bit petty.
It does feel a little petty.
I mean, it feels a lot of petty.
Yeah, Tom Petty, bro.
Like, we want your revenue. We want to make money from you streaming this on Twitch.
Yeah.
But then you're going to have to follow our fucking bizarre structure of rules.
No.
Without
Richard
fucking
Petty.
Richard Petty.
It's Richard Petty. That's Dick Petty.
Cousin of Tom Petty.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. It's a whole family tree of pettiness.
So right here what I'm reading is so chess grandmaster and Twitch streamer Hikaru, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, Hikaru Nakamura, never mind, the ire of Daddy Twitch. According to a report by PC Gamer, Nakamura decided to watch a video of Dr. Disrespect playing chess online against Dr. Lupo.
I remember that.
So that doesn't actually associate. Now we're taking it back. This article is misleading. Fuck you, Gaming
that was a
Bible.
couple months ago. Yeah, Hikaru's a pretty interesting figure. He's call him a chess master is a bit of a understatement.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of side news. Speaking of Japanese names, and surprisingly how easy it is to pronounce them, I'll teach you one day. One of the lead producers for Final Fantasy, going all the way back to Final Fantasy VII, one of the people who was directly involved in the creation of Kingdom Hearts, Shinji Hashimoto, has finally retired. We think Final Fantasy VII came out in what, 98, 99, somewhere around there?
Storied career there.
Yeah, 1997, Final Fantasy VII. So we're looking at 25 years of producing and managing. I think it was what's the word? I'm a little tipsy.
Mainline?
Exposure to the public, advertising, that kind of stuff. Shinji he's had a hand in every Final Fantasy game for the most part since Final Fantasy VII. I wanted to wish him not only a thank you, but I hope you enjoy your retirement. I mean, Final Fantasy VII, moving on, 8, 9, even 10, and all the online games, the start of Kingdom Hearts. You have defined a lot of people's enjoyment in video games.
Absolutely.
Dude,
not only my own, but I know yours.
Oh, Andy. For sure. I literally went down to one of our local game stores. Game Swap, shout out. You guys are awesome. And I bought a blind box Final Fantasy VII polygonal figure. I got Cloud. I was really excited.
That's awesome.
And because I bought that, we talked Final Fantasy for quite a while.
Yeah.
Just shooting the shit. Guys, remember your local game shops. They're fucking awesome.
Friendly local game stores, FLGS. Just do it. It's worth it. But yeah, I mean, just the idea that they've had a hand in Final Fantasy for over 20 years now. It's weird. It's weird getting old. It's weird seeing these icons of your childhood that were immutable and impermeable slowly start to recede into the background.
Yeah.
But it is good. You know, I think after Final Fantasy 11, you know, the newest Final Fantasy MMO, is that 14?
14.
Like, they've gone way beyond everybody's expectations for what they could have done with a Final Fantasy MMO. It's essentially World of Warcraft plus, if you can get over the Japanese-ness of it. The storyline's very anime. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they're doing next. I did see there was a teaser for Final Fantasy 16. I imagine that's probably just a splash screen of the words Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the idea of saying Final Fantasy 16 aloud, knowing that Final Fantasy, the original game, was named as such because it was the company's almost last-ditch attempt at making the company
That's
work.
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That's why they called it Final Fantasy, if I remember correctly. Right? They're like, we're going to come out of the fucking woodwork and just haymaker and out of left field and try to make this weird RPG based off kind of vague D&D ideas, Black Pearl or Black Opal, whatever was the original Japanese RPG. And it worked, right? And we have all that to thank for this, just like sheer luck. And thank you, Shinji, for any help you provided.
Yeah,
I mean,
he helped to define a generation of gaming. That's crazy.
We recently celebrated Final Fantasy's 35th year. Final Fantasy VII's 25th year was January this year. Yeah, it's an institution.
Those characters are in their 50s now.
Yeah, right. Well, technically, Cloud was 16, according to the canon lore. So
And it's been 25 years.
it's been 25 years.
Okay, so is that 41, 42?
Yeah.
Over
Can
the
you
hill.
imagine having to be the guy that gives Baird his fucking prostate exam?
It's got a
Now,
Gatling gun hands all rusted.
real quick, speaking of the old guard, so I don't know what any of this means, but I saw this as a headline and I read into it, but I still don't know what the fuck it means. Is Final Fantasy creator Hirinobo Sakaguchi joins Square Free Company in Final Fantasy 14. So
I think
he's not
a company is a guild.
okay. So Hirinobo
guessing.
Sakaguchi, it sounds like I think you're right. It sounds like Hirinobo Sakaguchi, who apparently loves Final Fantasy 14 and plays, has joined the company Square.
Okay.
I love that.
He's actually like legitimately playing
In a company called Square. And I love that. I love that.
It looks like grand companies are organizations that players are joined around level 20 by completing a main story quest. There are 3 to pick from. Maybe this isn't a grand company. I have a feeling that's probably a guild. I'm guessing he's joined a guild.
He mentioned that he joined Square, the free company. For those unfamiliar,
that's
a
different
free
than grand
company is Final Fantasy 14's version of a guild.
Okay, it is. Okay.
Okay.
Can you imagine being in a guild and the fucking Hirinobu Sakaguchi, like creator of most of the Final Fantasies you've played?
And then announces it on Twitter.
Yeah. And
He
then
says-
he plays a fucking druid.
He says, free company is formed. Square, abbreviated SQ.
Oh my
It's not Square Enix. It's Square. Finally, the time to belong to Square has come again. The logo is based on the rectangle of the
old
A in the old
Squaresoft.
Square logo, and was made in the blue color of the Final Fantasy I logo.
That is
That's fun.
iconic and fun.
I love it. I love it because Hirinobu Sakaguchi. It was Hirinobu Sakaguchi, and I think it was Yoshinori Kitase. They're like the big producers of the Final Fantasy games.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. And, I have to thank them a lot for like getting me into gaming.
I mean, talk about a defining feature of our childhood.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of games that help me kind of formulate what I like about games.
But those were formative games for us growing up, for
all
sure.
the Final Fantasies, yeah.
Yeah,
My
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I started with the first one accidentally. I didn't even know what it was when I first played it.
I didn't know what it was either because it was one of the games that I got with my Nintendo. With all the hand-me-down stuff. So it was a game that I didn't understand because I was too young,
I just want you to imagine being like 6, 7 years old and you put a game into the NES and the label's been ripped off. This was my experience. You don't even know what the game is. And it loads into Final Fantasy 1. And you have to re-put the cartridge in 9 times because it's old and it doesn't work. It's already old by the time you're 6. And you finally get it going and you play for like 4 hours and you're like, wow, what a game this was. And when you beat the boss, the fucking opening credits roll. And you're like, oh, the game hasn't even started yet.
What's the name of the first boss? The Night Garn?
It was, the black guard guy.
Yeah.
I keep thinking onion or garlic. Garland.
Garland, yes. Garland.
Yeah, I think it was
I
Garland.
think,
Yeah. But like a paradigm shift in your head, like the game's not over. It hasn't even started yet. Oh my gosh.
No, I was 5, 6 maybe.
Yeah,
so
you're a few years younger
so
than me.
yeah, figuring out what the difference between a white mage, red mage, blue mage, and a black mage was, and assembling my party and then naming all of them was a task. So
pick classes and all that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Shinji, for all the work you have done. In other news, I can shit on Stadia, or we can talk about Marble Madness 2.
Let's talk briefly about, I think, Marble Madness 2.
Okay. Yeah. This article, I can't think of a better article to pop up than when I'm drunk than this. So I had Marble Madness when I was young. It was a Nintendo game where you played as a marble in this weird 3D thing. And it was just mind-numbingly difficult. I never managed to beat the game. I'd get to the second to last level and fail in this one spot. And these guys know about my experience with it because around the time of my 15th, 16th birthday, we all rented a hotel for my birthday. And while some people were asleep in the bathtub and others were drinking and eating cake, I was desperately trying to beat Marble Madness on my birthday and just yelling and screaming at the TV.
Yeah.
So long story short, what likely happened, somebody found a PCB board of Marble Madness 2, which there were like 12 made. These like test arcade cabinets based off a defunct Marble Man, which was supposed to be the sequel to Marble Madness, which just did not test well at all. And they dumped the ROM, and they're turning it into a ROM for the MAME emulator. The guy who dumped it, his name is Dank2079, and that's all we know about him. Like, this article couldn't get any better.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, and apparently it's awful, and I'm so excited to play it. Like, it's like people are saying, it's like it takes everything that was good about the first one and trashes it. I already was awful at the first one, and the first one was harder than most video games I've ever played. So I can't imagine how this experience is going to go. If you know anything about ROMs, emulators, MAME emulation, and you know about Marble Madness, like, try it out with me. Next time I sit down on my PC, probably over here, I will give it a shot. I don't know if you can stream this. It was a game that was
not
never
ROMs,
released.
Unfortunately.
But who's it owned by?
I'm sure it's still owned by somebody.
By who? Like, that's the thing. Is like
the creator. All you have to do is renew the.
What if the creator's defunct? What if the company's not around anymore? Like, I'll have to look into this. Like, if this isn't a thing that like we could get in trouble for, I will totally stream Marble Madness too, which isn't a phrase I ever thought I'd say in my life.
Yeah, I love it when the community finds rare or unreleased games.
Yeah, apparently there's about a dozen, maybe 2 dozen a year. They find the old PCB boards from the cabinets, and they upload all the data as
and then hopefully, it gets into this historian's hands.
Like, yeah. This isn't some weird side game.
Yeah, I recently just watched. I can't remember the name of the game. You play a gorilla woman wearing a diaper. That was, I believe it was on the NES. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I can't say I remember that one off the top of my head. But yeah, that's really exciting. Other than that, Stadia, all remaining 19 players who still play it, they had all their saves deleted due to an unknown issue. One guy in the Reddit thread was like, 150 hours in this game, just gone. I don't mean to shit on streaming service games, but like, this doesn't happen if you own a copy of the game. This doesn't happen if you're able to save locally. And, these are the kind of ramifications you have when you switch over to purely stream cloud-based platforms, is everything you're doing and everything you quote unquote own and you play is just temporary. And it's not stored locally, and at any time your ability to play the game can be revoked.
Damn.
Yeah. And any time your save files can just be gone, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't own anything, even the rights to anything that you've paid for.
Yeah.
So, if you do play Stadia and you're unaware, well, I'm sorry for the blunt news. But yeah, you can check it out. I found this on, a website that I can't read because I'm blind and the text is too tiny. But yeah, Stadia user save game progress wiped away due to unknown issue was the headline.
So man. I found this from it's from Did You Know Gaming. They have a video called Lost Video Games That Were Found, and I love Did You Know Gaming. I fall asleep to this like nearly every night. But what they talked about was a game called Bio Force Ape, considered to be at the time, probably the rarest potential Nintendo game that never came out.
Okay.
So this went through development hell, but apparently, look at it. It's got like super advanced features for the NES. Look at the scrolling backgrounds.
I'm looking at this compared to like TMNT and whatnot.
Right.
What
This
kind of looks like.
This looks much more like an early NES title or a SNES title than it does an NES.
It looks
title.
like somebody remastered an NES title for the SNES.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Fascinating watch. So if you want to watch that YouTube video, it is Lost Video Games That Were Found by Did You Know Gaming.
Neat.
Fascinating stuff.
And before we wrap up, this really is really important. Of anything we've said today, there was a effort to get the attention of Steam and Valve to acknowledge the problems that have been happening with Team Fortress 2. Have you been following this at all?
I haven't. I saw you posted in the Discord.
Long story short, Team Fortress 2 is a game that a lot of people liked and was a good game, and it got flooded with bots and hackers to the point where the game was pretty much unplayable. That happened, like a decade ago? And there's still these diehard fans, of which my brother's one of them, that love this game. And they've sunk thousands and tens of thousands of hours into this game. And their ability to play it has been like all but removed due to issues that the devs have not only not acknowledged, but not done anything about. There was a large, quote unquote, global movement. Save TF2 was a hashtag, I think, on Twitter. And they managed to get a reply from Valve saying, TF2 community, we hear you, we love the game, we know you do too, we see how large this issue is become, and we're working to improve things. A little PR-y, but that alone, just the acknowledgement that we see how shitty things have become, we're working to improve things, is a big deal. I would love to see where this goes, because, you know, compared to like Titanfall, we know that Titanfall and Titanfall 2 has been DDoSed to all hell. And there's pretty much no chance of that game coming back.
It's gone.
Yeah. And as someone
servers,
who loves video games and the idea of losing them to the fog of history or the fog of mediocrity, like letting something go by the wayside, like it scares the fuck out of me. So to see Valve take the time out of their day, I don't know how many people are still working on TF2, like 3, 8, maybe. You know, it's a game that's super legacy. It's 20-something years old now. To just at least acknowledge that they've let this thing fall into this rampant pit of pustulence. I hope they're able to get that back and we can see TF2 working again.
Yeah.
And then as an aside, not an aside, I want to spend a few minutes talking about it.
Okay.
You and I talked about it a little bit yesterday.
Oh, yeah, the big thing we were going to spend.
Yeah, the big thing we were going to spend half. Yes. So just to end the podcast with, we won't talk about it for too long, but I want to talk a little bit about Vampire Survivor, the games that it spawned and its origins, and the naming of a genre.
This is a rare event.
It is, and it's exciting. I'm really excited to have been a part of like the little bit that I was.
So explain what's going on.
So Vampire Survivor comes out, spawns a bunch of knockoffs.
This is the game you and I played. Waves of enemies coming at you.
Yeah.
It's $2 on Steam.
And there's a reason
Go
you can't define it by genre. That's because the genre doesn't really exist. A lot of people have been referring to this style of game as a bullet heaven. I disagree with that completely. I don't think that is an apt title for it, especially since there's already a couple games on Steam called Bullet Heaven. I think it's a weird title for the genre. So I ended up joining a friend of, well, like kind of my personal friend, a.k.a. Mike B on Twitch and YouTube. Guy's been in the gaming industry for yonks. Part of the gaming industry, yonks. Okay. Yonkers. Ages. For a long time. I first...
How much is 2 yonks?
It's a lot.
You just opened a whole load of questions.
Oh, it's so many.
Okay.
Been a part of the gaming industry for a long time. I know him from World of Warcraft, and that's kind of how I got to know him. He used to be part of the Legendary podcast, and then found out that he also does his own thing called Indie for Breakfast. He's had a lot of different shows, a lot of exposure on the internet. But one thing that he has done, especially in his time at the ZAM Network, he was one of the heads of the ZAM Network. Now defunct and no longer a thing, but used to do gaming news and articles, theory crafting. It was a huge network. They were responsible for Wowhead, Destiny DB. A lot of the, like, at the time, they were writing all things for all games. And in his long, storied career, he has touched elbows with many, many people in the gaming industry. He may not be a hugely well-known streamer or hugely well-known content creator, but the guy's incredible. I suggest everybody follow him, subscribe, do your thing, aka Mike B. But he is, I would call him an authority in video gaming. The guy has a nearly encyclopedic knowledge at this point of video games, to the point where he can usually name off the top of his head, like, oh, this game is like this game. This game is like this game. It has elements of this game. I know this game. It's the developer of this game. He knows his stuff.
Okay. All right.
All that to preface. I joined his stream the other day, and in the middle of the stream, he decided that having played one of the Vampire Survivor likes, that it's time to name the genre, and was asking chat for input. So we tried to define this genre, and we came up with a lot of different things. Survival hell, roaming tower defense, mobile tower defense. A lot of them we shot down. Like, we went through probably 20, 30 iterations of naming this genre. Right. And not only seeing what sticks, but what is most applicable and what's the best describer based on what we know from current genres like survival, bullet hell, right? Because you can read those and you can kind of understand what a game is just by reading these genres, especially if you're looking at it on Twitch, or not Twitch, rather Steam. So if you're looking at a game on Steam, usually you can tell if you're going to like something, or maybe it interests you by the genre. So we started looking into this, and while we came up with a lot of different genre names, we narrowed it down to just a few. And
I played that game on my phone.
Yeah, that is. So what we found is that's called Magic Survival.
Yeah, that only
we're
came
playing
out
it on
6 months ago or so.
It didn't. It had a big update a few months ago. But that game actually came out in 2019. It's the only game that we could find that predates. So, like, his chat is awesome. They went through all of the old APKs that had ever been on the Google Play Store, because some of them have dev access to the Play Store.
Okay. And
they were able to find an APK for Magic Survival from 2019. So it's got effectively the same gameplay loop as Vampire Survivors, but it predates it by, 3 years? Or 2.5 years.
Yeah, and it's really common that the first in a genre does not define the genre.
Right.
It's usually the second or third.
Yeah. And the game Magic Survivor, Magic Survivor we're talking about. It's a great game.
Hard.
It's really hard. I did play a little bit of it.
I have it installed.
But it was a mobile only experience, so it's on different platforms.
Very niche.
Yeah, very niche. So it didn't get the exposure of something like a Vampire Survivors does, especially since Vampire Survivors on Steam sticks out as a $2 or $3 title depending on the day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we went full like hard mode into finding the games that fit this title. So here we're talking about he's listing the games as we speak about this in the video that we're watching. One of which that comes to mind is Brotato. Nomad Survival, there's Magic Survival, 10 Minutes Till Dawn, there's of course Vampire Survivors, and we found a slew of others, Spirit Hunters, and yeah, so we basically took all of the genre descriptors from those games, put them together, and found a mishmash of what kind of worked, and it was really exciting to be part of it. Now the plan is to submit this to all of these developers, to all of these games, and get their input on what they think the genre name should be. So hopefully soon we'll get some feedback from Mike that tells us kind of what the consensus is. The consensus from chat on the day was survival hell. We all kind of agreed that kind of hit the spot. You have to remember to keep the genre only 2 words, because that's what Steam allows, is 2 words for a genre title. So survival hell. But we're clearly open to change. We thought the question was asked a couple times during chat or during the stream is this a bit pretentious? Are we being a bit assuming?
Trying to be prescriptive about language as opposed to descriptive.
Not just that, but also trying to name a genre for for having no part in it other than playing these games.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. You know, it's weird because on one hand, like everything about these games, Magic Survival, Vampire Survivors, none of this is new.
Yeah.
Like everything in this has been done for decades in part by other games. Like I was originally calling these Smash likes, as in Smash TV, which is a fucking throwback to the 80s because that's what Smash TV was. It was like what was that?
Robotron.
What was was it Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, the like TV show, violent 80s? He was Running Man.
Running Man?
I think it was Running Man. I'm trying to remember my Schwarzenegger movies where he's essentially televised doing like violent.
Yeah, that's Running Man. Yeah,
that's Running Man.
So that's like what Smash TV kind of was. It was this top-down view of you on like this TV show, and you had to fight the host at the end, was this giant robot. And they played just like this, right? But back then there wasn't genres, right? It was this kind of protoplasm of gaming in the 80s. So to see this kind of resurgence is really cool. But yeah, trying to find a descriptive term for something that, you first have to define, okay, what is it that we're deciding defines this genre? Because again, nothing here is new, but the way they take these components and put them together, they all have that hook of you are a character in an ever-increasing threat of incoming mindless enemies until the point at which you die, unless you manage to find a way to break the game or set up a combo that allows you to break past the barriers therefore set. I don't know. Survival Hell is great. My initial concern, I think I mentioned this in the Discord when we were talking about it, is that it brings to mind for me the idea of like crafting survival-based games.
That's our really
Hell,
only concern with
Forest.
it. Yeah.
But the zeitgeist, like I mentioned in the channel, the spirit of the times, people are going to pick up on that quick. If somehow this becomes popular and people call it survival hell, it won't take more than a few months before people are able to disassociate this from things like, the Raft or Green Hell or the Forest.
Yeah.
But also, the point of naming a genre, other than the badge of honor of having named it, like humans love to put shit in boxes, right?
We do.
You love to categorize things, and it's cool that it happens. If anything, to me, just the whole concept is novel. The idea that somehow someone managed to get ahead of a burgeoning genre through attention to detail and the fact that these little indie games are coming out and blowing up, and Vampire Survivors was big and everybody followed it. But then suddenly you're like, wait, there's like 3 or 4 games like this that are already out. Yeah. Oh, wait. And the next couple months, there's more games like this coming out. Like, it's really neat to see a genre kind of evolve in real time.
Oh, yeah.
And feel like you're on top of things. Because when we were growing up, that wasn't the case.
No.
It wasn't until our teens that we even know what the fuck genres of games were. You just played games, right? Yeah. So,
yeah, and dude,
I think one thing, these developers, I think I mentioned this when I first mentioned Vampire Survivors. I tried to look into it because I beat it when it first came out. There wasn't a lot of content. I was like, okay, Luca Galante was the creator. Yeah, he apparently hired a team of people. I managed to find some kind of like weird Flash version of the game on some site that was like a beta version. So I really, if this genre owes anything to anything, it's the idea of the old aughts Flash games, the old, the Congregate, Newgrounds.
We went as far as going back to Newgrounds and looking through Newgrounds to see if there were similar titles.
Yeah. Because there's so many millennials now that are in game, whatever, game design, game graphics, game editing, game programming. They got their start on Flash sites and old sites like that. What was before Flash? Shockwave, that kind of stuff. It's just neat to see this kind of, I played games like this when I was younger. Yeah. And it's cool to see that they haven't died just because they're old.
If anything, Vampire Survivors shows you that they can still be good. Yeah. They can still be popular.
They found an amazing
and they can really come
loop.
back. Yeah. Oh yeah. Just to wrap it up, we ultimately ended up with Survival Hell, submitted to the devs. There was a lot of dissension in the chat as far as that goes. We did straw polls based on what we had come up with, tournament bracket style.
Survive them up.
Survive them up, yeah. A lot of people say like standard bullet hell. I disagree.
It's not a bullet hell.
It's not a bullet hell because
you're not dodging bullets.
You're not dodging bullets.
Ikaruga. This isn't fucking 19XX, right?
Right. Not only that, but in in most bullet hell titles, bullets travel in a straight line. They never deviate. These guys, they will track you ad nauseum, right? So instantly separates it.
These guys track you. The thing about a bullet hell is, regardless of whether the bullets travel in a straight line or not, they follow a pre-designated pattern.
Right, yes.
And you can memorize that pattern. Yes. Like Ikaruga is a great example. Like you play that game enough, you can learn how to fight the bosses.
Yeah.
These guys track you with what I assume is something simple like A-star pathfinding, where they're trying to touch your character sprite. And that makes for highly dynamic moments where you're trying to pixel perfect dodge people and don't let them touch your hitbox.
Find covers so you have a left wall.
Yeah, until you cool down on your next big ability hit so that you have that 4.5 seconds of breathing time or half a second of breathing room to make your next decision.
But we had to separate it from things like twin stick shooters because having a second means of control differs from the genre. Yeah, it's different.
We're getting into the mush, but it is true.
Yeah, and we really dove deep. So check out AK Mike B. The video is titled "The 20-Minute Auto Vampire Survival Magic Tato Genre Needs to Be Recognized."
Magic Tato.
I call it the Sprite Touch Stress Test.
There are a couple games, if you're on Android, you don't have a PC available, and you want to try something in this genre. I cannot recommend them for the longevity, but if you want to get a feel for the game, 3 Heroes is a recently announced title I saw on Android Gaming, a guy's first foray into development, as well as Gothic Survival. They both play essentially like Vampire Survivors. They're just clones. But they're free, and you can play them, and you can see what we're talking about with that, like, moment-to-moment planning of, I need to dodge this pattern of enemies, or else I'm going to die.
I think that's where we're going to end it. We went a little bit long. Yeah.
We overcooked that one.
We did, but I really wanted to talk about that. Sorry, I had to tag that up there at the end.
Good.
I will have links in the show notes if you want to check out in the videos we talked about in the trailers, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out videogametango.com, Video Game Tango YouTube channel. That's true. Werewolf facts are now stored away at videogametango.com, which is where you can find the links for everything. Keep it simple. Just go to videogametango.com. Videogametango.com.